Welcome back to Majestic Collectibles podcast. This is the one that I alluded to in the last podcast where, I talked about the sales, 2024 sales drop. I'll apologize in advance. I may have to take a little sip of my coffee here. Monday it was 73. Tuesday it was 75. Today is, it's March, 19th. And the high is, I got it right here, 38 degrees. And we've had 50 mile an hour gusts, rain, sleet, and snow, and the bad weather advisory doesn't take effect for another hour and a half. So got a feeling it's going to be one of those days. But these temperature drops, man, they are just really hard on me at my age or something. I don't know. And my nose gets all like stuffed up and runny when it gets cold and clammy because it's really, really humid. We've had some rain, so it's just that cold, clammy stuff. So I'm going to take one now. I may have to do that from time to time just to try and keep talking. I want to talk about a couple of things first. A couple of podcasts ago, my magazine, the Hidden Cost of Magazines, had some really, really super good feedback. I really appreciate that. Actually, everybody's really nice, so I super appreciate that. So thank you. I don't think everybody quite understood what I was doing, though. It was not a best practices video. So it was not a video like this is how you should list the magazines and stuff. So that wasn't it. I don't know if they didn't watch it to the end or I don't know, maybe I didn't make myself clear. It was just an example of what selling something like that on eBay could cost you. So, before you start listing them or buying them or whatever, you kind of got to figure out what that profit's going to be at certain price points and, of course, what you're willing to pay for them. So that's all that was. It was not something I was advocating to go out and start doing that way. It was just, that wasn't the point of it. The last one on the sales video, so I didn't mention this and I should have, and that's my fault. I still have to pay taxes, so I still did make a profit. I did not make that clear. So even with that big drop in sales, I am not getting a refund. I am still going to have to owe state and federal governments something. Was it as much as it has been for the last few years? Absolutely not. But I still did make a profit on it. I'm not closing up shop. Those things happen, especially in collectibles. But that was a pretty big swing, right? So that's why I wanted to point that out. But I still got to wait for my taxes to come back and write a couple of, I don't write checks anymore. It's all electronic. But I'm still going to have to pay them something is the point there. Let's see. So this video, just to be up front, it's kind of cost accounting. That's not really the point of the video, though. I mean, I've got some numbers. This is how I kind of estimate costs when I am sourcing. So it's more of a sourcing video, like when I go out and buy collections, and then I'm kind of figuring out, I've done this for a while now, so I've kind of got the system down. So I can kind of estimate my profit margin when I'm looking at a big collection and what I'm able to pay. I do not source through thrift stores. I do not source through garage sales. I've been to them, obviously, taking the kids or whatever, but I do not source my stuff that way. I buy collections, hopefully, from the original owners, maybe an estate, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. So just to give you the background for me on it, but I thought you guys might find it helpful if you're a reseller or thinking about being a reseller, just kind of more of the concepts to keep in mind, when you're outsourcing. So it should, most of this should work for everybody. Don't get hung up on the numbers. I made the numbers simple. It's mainly the concepts of why I have that number there and things like that. So we'll go ahead and we'll just get started on this. And I did put it down. It says cost accounting. Number one thing, hire somebody an accountant, a tax attorney, somebody that can help you with this because you need it specific for your business. It's a little bit of money up front. I got to tell you, they have really helped me a lot. Josh, if you're watching, thanks, man. I know I won't get a discount, but that's okay. But it's well worth it. That money spent up front, I got to tell you, saves you 10, 20 times what it would normally. I know there's a lot of TurboTax people out there. I used to be one of them. We used to do that. Just got too complicated for our situation. But it never hurts to just go and talk, do a consultation, something like that. There we go. Drippy weather. So that's my first piece of advice: is just go find a good tax professional. Don't go to me. I sell comic books and toys on eBay, so probably not the best source. But anyway, so we're going to do what I call the YouTube math. And that's going to be up here. So, you've seen those videos. I bought something for $5 at a thrift store. I went and sold it on eBay, and I made, whatever profit. Now, in this case, I'm going to say we sold it for $100. And the YouTube profit, okay, that's going to say you made $95. You did not make $95. And this is where a lot of resellers and I think small business people kind of get in trouble because they don't figure the full costs. So the first couple things here, since we sold that on eBay, you saw this a couple podcasts ago. You've got your final value fee, promoted fee. We're not going to spend much time on that. Self-explanatory. But your $95 profit is already down to, what was it? Let me get the math right. $72. Now the next part here, the mileage rate. I don't know, a long time ago, because I'm old. So I've got a bachelor's degree in marketing with an entrepreneurship emphasis. That's working with small businesses. A lot of people did not take this into account. So for our purposes, I set it up so you went to the thrift store and it was a 10-mile round trip, right? Yeah. So, and I just figured the federal mileage rate at 50 cents per mile, which is really low. I'll talk a little more on that. I just wanted to keep the math simple. But that, just driving there and back at 50 cents a mile is $5. And this is important because this may not have come directly out of your pocket on this trip. But somewhere down the line, if you've got a work vehicle, okay, it's coming out of your pocket. Maintenance, repairs, replacement, whatever it is. I guarantee the federal government would not allow this if it wasn't legit, and it's legit. And there is a standardized amount you can take, and there's one that's itemized where you have to keep a logbook. I keep a logbook, although they raised the standardized deduction. I don't know. It's been a little while now, and I've never quite got there. I always come up short. But I always keep a logbook because, boy, every year they're changing the tax code and allowances and things like that, and it's really hard to go back and legitimately recreate that, right? So I'd keep a logbook, and whichever one is best for me. And again, I turn that into my tax attorney guy, and Josh does it for me, and then I don't have to worry about it, right? Now, I actually looked up, so for 2024, because this is last year, it's 2025 now. So the mileage rate, the federal mileage rate for 2024 is officially 67 cents a mile. So that's obviously a lot more than the 50 cents I had in the math here that I'm doing to keep it simple. But think about that. If you're not calculating your mileage rate on this or any other trips you make, garage sailing, auctions, collections. Of course, I set up at shows and conventions, so I do that too. It counts for that. But that, you're leaving a lot of money on the table at 67 cents a mile. But that'll bring, at 50 cents a mile, that brings us down to $67. So this $95 YouTube profit, I'm telling you, it's disappearing fast. Now the next thing, and this is hard. I've worked with small business and small business people for a long time. And some folks get this concept more than others. Whether you get it or not is okay, because if you go out and you get a good a tax person, accountant person, money person, they can help you with this, and they can help you figure this number out for you. And that is hourly rate. So the resellers, the small business people, sole proprietorships that understand this and are disciplined in this concept generally do really, really well. They at least tend to make better decisions because they have better information available to them, so they're not flying blind. So this is a really, really important concept, and that's how much is your time worth. Now I'll tell you right now, I just drove up to the post office to drop off a couple of packages, and there's a billboard for one of the local, well, I guess I won't say the name, they're not sponsoring me, but the starting wages were $23 an hour for a line assembly work. And they got a big electronic billboard with it. And a lot of folks do not value their time properly. I can't tell you how many times I've heard it said, oh, I just figure maybe $10 an hour. I don't need to make a lot. You're just robbing yourself. Do not do that. Do not get in that mindset, because if you really want this to pay off and be worth your time and effort and have money left over at the end of the the month or the pay cycle or whatever your system you're on, this is where it's going to come from. So this $30. So what I figured is 1 hour, just to keep it simple, and I figured the time at $30 an hour, and I took that off because I know, and that's where people get in trouble. It's like, well, I really didn't take $30 of that profit. Well, you got to figure your time in. However you want to do it, there's different ways of doing it, but you've got to figure a steady hourly rate in. But that brings it down to $37. And that's a big chunk, and a lot of people are going to go like, oh, I just don't figure that in. Whatever's left over is left over. And that's why, if you're at the end of your billing cycle and you're coming up short money-wise, and you're thinking, gosh, I sold this item for $100. I only had 5. I got $95 profit, which you didn't. Where's my money? I should have plenty of money to pay this $50 bill I've got, right? Because I made $95 on this one sale. So if that's happening to you, this may be a place to look at as far as calculating your costs. And when you follow this, so if I go on a collection, and it's often out of state, South Dakota, Minnesota, far corners of Iowa, sometimes Missouri and Illinois, you know what? I may be on the road 6 hours that day. I may be on the road 8 hours, and then you also have the time looking, at the collection. You never know how long that is. But it's always longer than you think it should be. You have to calculate that time as valuable. And one of the big reasons is if you'd have just stayed home and listed stuff on eBay or source closer to home or whatever it is, you can't do that. You can't be in two places at once. So you have to calculate it and make sure that whatever you're going to purchase, it's worth your time to do that. And if it isn't, and this is tough, if it isn't, you have to kind of cut your losses, cut your bait, and just not make the situation worse. And there's a lot of collections, guys, I have not bought just because of that hourly rate, because I respect my time, even if somebody else doesn't. And nobody else is going to do it for you. So you got to be really disciplined on this, right? Because that's not how the world works. And if you can't stick to your hourly rate, maybe it's not for you, especially full time, because you're going to get burned out really quick. You're going to get really frustrated because the money that you think is coming in, it's not there, because there's nothing left over at the end of your pay period, because you're not figuring in your time on this. And it's a lot harder maybe for the little guys to do this, because you don't have generally this big this big chest of money that necessarily is left over at the end of the month. So it can be tough, but stay disciplined. And the number one thing I hear when I explain this to people, or I've talked to other resellers, and I hear this 99% of the time, it's like, well, then I can't go out and buy the stuff I'm buying. I have to buy different stuff, or I have to get it cheaper. I have to stop selling, whatever it is. And that's true. I mean, that's part of being disciplined is if it's not worth your time and you're not making enough money on it, then you do need to buy and resell something else, whatever that is. And if you don't, it just usually doesn't work very well. If you're thinking of making that leap from say part-time or side hustle to doing it full-time, especially if you've got a job, even a part-time job that you're giving up cash flow on, you absolutely have to figure an hourly rate. Now, I picked $30 an hour, and the reason I picked that is because at least around here in central Iowa, I've seen some stuff advertised at 18, but most everything is starting for part-time jobs in that $20 to $25 an hour range. And 100% honest saying this, if you don't make at least that, then you should probably go work the part-time job. And that's not being snarky. It's just making a good decision, because you'll get cash flow, you'll get steadier hours. You'll have your pay stub broken down. Even if it's just part-time, you may not get full benefits, but you have so much extra drama and extra work when you run your own business. And if you've done this and you work all day selling on eBay, maybe you set up at shows like I do, or flea markets, and then you think, you go grab something to eat, my day's not over, because then I have to do the administrative stuff, say deal with orders if there's a problem with an order, look at reports, sales reports, cost reports, whatever it is, and then you have to do that because you didn't have time to do it during the day when you're working, right? And in that case, you're probably giving up 2 and 3 days on a weekend. Your weekends are shot. So, make it worth it if you're going to do it, side hustle or otherwise. It is fun, but that fun goes away quickly if it doesn't pay off on that. So that's my 2 cents. Now, just a couple other things, dragging it out here, not too bad. Fixed cost and variable cost. Your fixed costs are usually pretty easy to figure. I put $1 in, and I'm going to tell you right now, if your fixed cost was actually $1 on this, you got really, really high fixed cost. It's probably fractions of a cent or a few pennies at most when you break it down over all your inventory. But I just wanted to add it in. I figured $1 each, which brings your $95 profit all the way down to $35. And this is not complete, but your fixed costs, you've got your rent, your utilities, your mortgage. I'm home-based business, so I can take whatever the square footage is off my total square footage. I can deduct some of that from my mortgage payments, insurance payments, utility payments. Again, that's pretty simple. Variable costs. Now, this can be really tough. At first they're not bad. We've got shipping supplies. So maybe you've got a collection in and you have to pick up some more boxes or packing material, whatever it is. Probably not big dollar, but it can vary a lot, right? Setup fees, if you do shows part of the time of the year, the fees are a little higher or lower. Maybe you add shows. I added a couple shows last year. Didn't know that ahead of time, just kind of happened organically. So that changes. Maintenance, had an old computer. It just would not run Windows 11, and it would not, it's just out of date. They're not pumping through the security updates through it. Didn't really want to do it. It worked fine. I don't need a state-of-the-art, 40-core, live gaming processor setup thingy, whatever they are. But it is something I had to replace. I had to replace my scanner that I'd had boy, I don't know, 12, 14 years. Same deal. The software, they updated, it would not work with Windows 11 no matter what I tried. So I bought the exact same scanner, just made in 2024. And yeah, it works fine. So, but it was $700. Deductible, but you still got to pay it out of your pocket. So there are some variable costs, but the big variable cost for me in my situation are collections, because I never know when they're coming in and I never know how much they're going to cost me. Is it going to cost me $500? Is it going to cost me $25,000? And again, if you don't have cash on hand, it makes it really hard to buy this stuff. So that's when, working with a money person, bank, lending institution, something like that, so you have a line of credit or whatever, so you can, take advantage of those opportunities. But variable costs can have a way of biting you in the rear end if you're not prepared, or if you don't have a lot of cash on hand, or your cash flow goes up and down with, say, a seasonal whatever it is. So it can leave you a little short if you have an unexpected expense there. And again, that's all something. Sit down with somebody that specializes in small business accounting, small business taxes, all sorts. There may be grants available depending where you're at and what your type of business, how many employees you have. You may get a discount on rent. You may get some type of credit for something. So there's all sorts of things that actually are possible depending where you're at and what the laws and regulations are. So absolutely spend that money up front and just sit down and say, hey, what are some things I should be tracking? Is there any way, are there any deductions I'm missing? Are there any credits I'm missing? Something like that. But when you're outsourcing, hey, that's probably the way to go right there. Then you don't have to look at me, right? But when you're sourcing, when I'm sourcing, excuse me, this is the formula I use. I keep it fairly simple. And if you have other costs, you can break that down and then just kind of lump it. So maybe I have all these costs, and then there's some cost, or there's something different about it, whatever it is, and then you can figure, well, I gotta figure in another say 2% on my cost structure. Add 2% in on that, or 5%, or whatever the numbers turn out being. So you don't have to make it super duper complicated. But I have driven out of state, and I have looked at large collections, and I got to tell you, sometimes it just doesn't work. If there's a collection that's worth, say it's retails at $20,000. Will I buy it for $10,000? I honestly don't know, because of all these variables in there. And you think, wow, you should pay at least $10,000 for a $20,000 collection. But if you look back at the previous podcast about the hidden cost of magazines, so I sold a $20 magazine, I'm making $4.71, right, profit. And that didn't even include like my hourly rate. I didn't even have that in that formula. The time it takes to prep it, to sort it, to store it. Storage costs can be very, very high, especially in my case when I'm dealing with tens of thousands of comics and action figures. They take up a lot of space, and my storage unit just went up. It went up quite a bit. I think it's $226 a month. And that's a large unit, and it's fully climate controlled, and it's drive-through. So, I can, I can do it in any of the weather. Like today, I can load out and not get my stuff damaged. But there is a cost, and time is part of that cost. If I buy a massive collection, that toy collection I picked up now, I think it's 3.5 years ago, I still have stuff. Now it's at the bottom of the barrel. But you think about that, 3 years, over 3 years it's taken me to get through a collection that size. That return on your initial investment does not happen instantaneously. And a lot of sellers really just I don't know. They don't seem to get that concept. That what do you mean you have to sit down at 2 years to have 80% sell through? That's the way it works, right? I mean, it just by the time you get it sorted, you get it graded, you get it listed, you sell it, you do everything else with it. It just doesn't flip overnight. And, nobody wants to sit in their inventory. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't. I try and turn that inventory as fast as possible because that's your money sitting there. And that money you have into that is not earning interest. And that's another opportunity cost. If you're going to spend $10,000 on a collection, could I take that $10,000 and put it in the stock market or the bonds? Or is there another safer, less risky, less labor-intensive investment where I can just put $10,000 in, not deal with all this other stuff, and just let it accrue interest or money or profit that way? And that's another cost I think a lot of people don't factor in, is that opportunity cost, especially in big dollar stuff. Could I go drop $50,000 on a collection? I could. Would I be better off putting that $50,000 lump sum in some type of investment? Because you gotta, it's got to pay off. If you're going to do all this extra work, you're going to spend that kind of money on a collection. I'm not doing it for 10%. Yeah, I'm not putting that kind of money of my own money at risk doing that. So a lot of different variables when sourcing, and everybody's different, and it takes a while, to figure it out. And if you change up, if you sit down and do this, figure out these numbers for your situation, it may be you're going to have to source a completely different way or completely different items, maybe both. But anyway, I hope that helps somebody, just to kind of explain the very important but very dry and unexciting, well, hopefully unexciting business side of sourcing and kind of what I keep in mind when I am sourcing. Now, I do have a show coming up. March 29th and 30th, QuadCon Des Moines, Merle Hay Mall. It's Saturday, Sunday, free show. Weather got me there. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit warmer in the next 10 days. Could be rainy though. Spring showers and all that sort of thing. But stop by, say hi. I've only got one more local show right now here in Des Moines, and that's not until, I want to say, end of October or November. So the QuadCon show is the last local show for probably 6 months at least, unless something gets added, but that'll be it. So stop by and see me here at the end of March, because it'll be a while. Otherwise, I've got the one in Sioux Falls in April. I've got that's a QuadCon up in April on the 19th, day before Easter, I believe, at the Ramcota. And then after that is flea market season. So I'll be in Spirit Lake Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day. And then after that, I believe it's the QuadCon show in October. So there's some gaps. There's some shows that are changing dates, that kind of move their dates around a little bit, and that makes it tough because sometimes they interfere with another show. So I've got some gaps over the show season that normally aren't there, and I will try and fill those in like I did with the QC Toy Show a couple of weeks ago, so I'll keep you informed if that happens. That's it for now, guys. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for watching.